Well, you always hope for the best, and what you flash back in your mind in anything that you approach is sometimes it resembles something else that was successful. So you never think, oh, it's going to be this trashy cult movie about with dogs dressed up as rats. You think it's going to be like The Birds. It's going to be this scary movie about like The Birds, and instead it ends up being Deadly Odd. In those days, before the boom, the work was very seasonal. There was no work in the wintertime, and this was shot in January, and it was the only film we were on in the entire country. So, yes, it was complimentary that I was in the film, the only film being shot in the whole country, but in the end, it was dogs dressed up as rats.
I was just a kid. I was going to school. I don't know, I had a hankering to model for some bizarre reason because I saw my mother had some pictures. She used to model when she was younger, and I was like, well, I want to do that. I can do that. And I did a Zest commercial, played all the time. And I remember, I guess it was maybe 2 years later, I guess I did it when I was 14. I guess a couple of years later, they were looking for a new Zest girl, and they wanted a Lesleh Donaldson type. And I'm like, I'm here! Hire me! I'll do it again!
Klondike Fever.
Truly, it was a packaged film when you look at all the stars that were in that film. And I was just offered the picture because the producer saw me in the cover of Canadian magazine. They used to have this thing at the end of the year called Their Stars of Tomorrow. And I was one of them that was featured, along with Richard Gere and amongst other people. But I ended up being on the cover. And so he said, I want that girl. And when I look back, I was really miscast because I was really very much a Disney version of Diamond Tooth Gurry. But maybe that's the look they wanted, the way everybody looked and the music and everything else.
So did you research Diamond Tooth Gurry at the time?
I did, and I didn't look at all like her, and nor was I the type. And I also felt very much like a glorified extra. I wasn't really given anything to do. So the biggest challenge was, okay, what's a different pose now that I could, instead of standing, leaning over this balcony, banister on the balcony, maybe I should sit down and put my legs through and look a little bit different that way. Because I was there.
Shit's come down, children.
By the time I got to class of 1984, because of what had happened to me on Klondike Fever, I knew to work really hard to make sure I had business to do so that I wasn't left doing anything, not to rely on the director. And so although I say, there's probably very few words I actually say in Class of 1984, I think I'm a very memorable character.
Running. The fun thing about that is that I got the role and then I didn't get the role because Michael Douglas at the time was 32. And I was 14, and I was a very mature-looking 14, so he was really concerned that he was too young to be my dad, where I was too old to play his daughter in the movie. And so I got the part, and then I didn't get it. And Steven set up an appointment with me meeting Michael Douglas in a hotel room and himself, and just to see how things would gel.
Daddy, I'm so ashamed.
Damn. It's supposed to be a happy occasion.
So I went to the hotel room and I brought my grandmother along with me, and like I did back then, and she came into the room, and so the four of us are sitting there, and Stephen and I are chit-chatting and talking about this and that, and there's a lull in the conversation, and Michael's just, he's just staring at my grandmother the whole time. It's just like, can't take his eyes off her, because she had these amazing, wrinkles. Old lady, she had this great face. She was beautiful, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I've never seen such a beautiful face in my entire life. Your face is amazing." He said, "You don't know where I come from. Everybody's face is like, pushed and lip uplifted, and nobody looks real."
Right.
And he said, "Your face is incredible." And she goes, "Oh, so you like my wrinkles, and you're flattering me," and they had this little flirtation going on, and so he got the part, and I was like, damn, you're coming to every audition from now on. I didn't have a lot of days. I had like maybe 3 or 4 scenes. And then I had to do a lot of, shots of running with him. For your first feature film, you couldn't have asked for a better situation.
Essentially, I was going to go to university and either become a journalist at Ryerson or become an attorney, or a lawyer, as you say in Canada. And I needed a way to pay my way to university. So I had a dance teacher who said, you should do commercials. And I said, how do you do that? And she said, you get some pictures made, they bring them down to Toronto, you get them, bring them to an agency, and you start.
We were all doing the same thing. Lisa and Lynn, we were all auditioning for commercials as well as television and feature films and stuff like that.
Well, I was just going up to the village to meet some of the kids at the inn.
You mean the second home for the Crawford Top 10, don't you?
And they're like, oh, so they've got this part of the girl, the first girl in Happy Birthday to Me. They want to see you for it. And I was like, okay, who's in it? Whatever. And it's like, it's about group, these kids in high school and the top 10, and they get bumped off one by one, and you're the first to go. And I went, great. So I'm like, fine, good. Let's go. That sounds good.
Up until that film, I had always been cast as the girlfriend or the daughter. So I was never in films with other Canadian actors my age. So it was like going on a school trip, and all these romances also evolved, like being on a school trip as well.
Yeah, I mean, there was some fun things that went on behind the scenes when I was there. So I can only imagine what went on when I wasn't there with them, because they were a little bit older, and they'd known each other for a while, and a couple of them had just come off doing Meatballs together, Matt Craven and Jack Bloom. So they already had a kind of rapport between them.
Well, J. Lee Thompson is one of my favorite directors as well. He's also on the Auteur. I mean, the guy directed Cape Fear and The Guns of Navarone. Really underrated director.
Greg. Greg?
And my recollection of him was this older gentleman, very in English, very but and very polite, but always carrying a styrofoam cup full of blood and throwing it during scenes all the time to splatter blood on everybody. It was hysterical.
I was young, and I was the youngest of everyone, pretty much. Then, now I'm the oldest, but I was the youngest, but I was very naive in a lot of ways, but I was very mature for my age.
Well, my memory of Lesleh Donaldson is that she was the minor on the set, and so she had to be accompanied by her grandmother. And so she was always trying to escape her grandmother.
And I was never precocious. I'm precocious now. I wasn't precocious then. So I was very shy and very, timid and hard to believe.
Come along, Winston, give Mommy head.
She opened the movie, and it was actually pretty terrifying what happened to her. Her scream and her eyes. She was wonderful. As I was told, with my original scene where I get the axe in the head, it was going to be given an X-rated, so they made me be a survivor. It's a big lark for everybody. Everybody's having a good time. That film, we shot it all at night, too. It was actually shot at night.
They think that Greg may be dead.
So when people say they're thinking of doing a remake, I'm like, well, good luck, because make sure the people that you hire that are going to be that group of people already have a kind of, like I say, rapport. They already have a relationship with each other, because I think that's really what makes that movie fun.